Hey guys, it's Bree. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I save money on books. So I have been a big reader my whole life, no surprise. And as an adult, I now have to pay for all of my own books. While I do now have the very good fortune of being in contact with some of the publishers who will occasionally send me something, and being able to use resources that are out there for bloggers like NetGalley and Edelweiss. That's not always an option for everyone, and so I wanted to share some of my big tips for how I save money. I'm not going to talk about the library too much because you all know you can go there and get a library card for free if you're in the US and it's already paid for, comes out of your taxes, you just have to return it. And that's not, I think, what most people go after when they are looking for super cheap books, right? Or tips on how to get super cheap books. I have a couple of different tips. Most of them, to me at least, seemed fairly intuitive, but hopefully will help you out. So I have a variety of options. I am a super big fan of supporting local businesses, so sometimes my tips come from that perspective. The first thing I wanted to show you is one that actually does come from the library, and that's because I often shop at library sales. So a lot of places will have what's called the Friends of the Library system, which is basically people who volunteer or donate to the library, and oftentimes they're dealing with books that were donated or books that they're pulling out of the collection, and they do, for most library systems at least, an annual library sale. I'm very fortunate because my library has a persistent little shop in our library, but I was able to pick up Ben Bova's Far Side. I have not yet taken the wrap off, but it comes off pretty easily, and this is in really good condition. You can see the binding is just fine. None of the pages are smudged. It's a little discolored from use, no big deal. And I got this one for $1, and that's a hardback, again, good condition, definitely readable, definitely able to be put on your shelf and displayed reasonably well. The plastic actually comes off fairly easily, and it was all for $1. Books that are in paperback at my library are 50 cents. So I can generally get a couple of good steals by keeping an eye on the library and the Friends of the Library sales. I had a subscriber who actually turned me on to a tip that they had, which was that you can go to the dollar store. So I picked up a $5 bill and I went to my dollar store. And there I found a marked up copy of Suman Kid, The Invention of Wings, which it says on the sticker you can see $9.99, but I only paid $1 for this. It's never been read, perfectly good condition, just something that was probably overstock. The other one that I got was actually, again, $1. And this is a copy of Archetype by M.D. Waters. I think this is a YA book. It's definitely about a girl who's kidnapped. Totally perfectly fine condition. Brand new, only paid $1. The thing about going and getting books from the dollar store is you will find that they're mostly older books, things that were on the bestseller list. But if there was something you were eyeing and you can wait a while, you maybe aren't interested in paying full price for the book, but a $1 or $2 wouldn't hurt you. Totally good place to go and just kind of keep an eye on. And you can see brand new mint condition books. I think with tax I paid like $2.25. I'm a big fan of half price books. This is a copy of The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster that I got there for about $3. Pretty good condition. It is a used copy, so that is something to keep in mind. But definitely one of my cheapest kind of staple ways to go and get books is to go to half price. But any used bookstore will do. So half price, and then my actual favorite bookstore is a used science fiction bookstore, and they have a fantastic collection of older science fiction books. Now the interesting thing is that half price and this particular used bookstore both have the same rule of thumb for pricing, which is that half off of the back cover price is what they will pay, what they will charge for a used book. If you can go to a place that has an old enough stock, you're going to find that these copies right here wind up costing you like $2, which is super great. They come with like the super funky like 70s editions. Um, and I am a sucker for old copies of like mass market science fiction and fantasy books. Another thing to keep in mind if you're looking at used bookstores is that a lot of chain bookstores actually have used sections. So I have one near me, and I was able to get a copy of Sherry S. Tepper's Singer from the Sea. This does run me a little bit more expensive. This is $8 for the hardcover, but it is pretty solid as far as condition goes. The binding is still really tight. The cover and the dust cover are in pretty much brand new condition, with the exception, of course, of the used sticker. So a bit of a spendier option, but still a pretty steep discount from the $24 that this originally cost. I do shop at Goodwill fairly frequently for books specifically, because a lot of times people will get books for Christmas, or they'll be clearing out their house for when they move, and will just bulk send their books to the Goodwill. Prices there do tend to be around like $4 and under, which generally is a pretty good steal. The other day I was there and I think I saw a brand new hardcover of Divergent for like $3.50. But I find that your Goodwills are really variable. So if you have a really well organized Goodwill, it's fantastic. If you, however, have one that's a little bit more like my local one, it's just a headache to go through. So what I find to be the better option is actually to go on Amazon. And this sounds a little bit like, yeah, Bree, of course Amazon's going to be cheap. But Goodwill uses Amazon as a vendor, and so a lot of regional area Goodwills, so their warehouses where they keep their stock, will actually put a good chunk of their books onto Amazon and sell them there for Goodwill prices, plus like $1.50 for shipping. And so you can go through there and rack up some really good deals if you're willing to go through and look at the used section. And especially if you are shopping from the same vendor, a lot of times you can combine all of your orders into as few packages as possible. So for instance, I went online and I got this copy of The Revolution Will Not Be Televised by Joe Trippi, which is in really good condition. And although it's a couple years on my shelf by now, it was almost pristine when I originally got it, for about $3, including shipping, I think, at the time. So fantastic deals to be had there. Speaking of online vendors, I'm a big fan of Book Outlet. Problem with Book Outlet being the same thing you're going to have with any place that sells kind of just used or miscellaneous books. They don't necessarily always have the most fantastic selection. And if you save up your cart for a while and you have a big enough order, you can wind up getting fairly decent shipping, at least for the US, and I believe for Canada the prices are pretty cheap for shipping. That's really nice because I've occasionally ordered like 12 books and my checkout price is like $60, which is fantastic. The last tip that I have for you is to go ahead and use little free libraries. Little free libraries look like little bird houses at the front of homes, and they are basically just community exchanges for books. The rule is that if you leave a book, you can take a book. And so I will oftentimes go to one or two of my little free libraries with a book or two in hand and place them in there and pick out something that I think looks interesting. This is again going to be really prone to kind of what your neighbors read, but I actually find that to be really fun. And you know, sometimes I put a book in and I don't grab a book right away. I just kind of feel like I have a karma credit for one eventually when I see what I like. So there you have it. These are my suggestions for how to save some money on books and on building your library. So go ahead and leave in the comment section below your suggestions for how to save money on reading. I think that this is always really interesting, and every time someone's like, I got this so cheap on such a good deal, I just want to like figure out how they did it. So go ahead and leave me your suggestions down below. I hope you're having a fantastic reading week. Go ahead, click that like button, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.